Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live. It's a little earlier than the day than we normally go live, but you make special exceptions for special and exceptional people. So today we are live with none other than, I can't even call her a triple threat because she has done so many amazing things in the
Thank
film
you.
industry. But today we are live with Ericka Nicole Malone. And I'm just going to read you guys a little bit of her bio just to give you a little background and insight on who this amazing woman is. Ericka Nicole Malone is an award winning filmmaker, writer, producer, and director known for her work in film, television, and theater. Her career is defined by a focus on amplifying female voices and creating films that highlight the Black experience. She is also a successful businesswoman, having founded her own production company, Ericka Nicole Malone Entertainment, ENME. And I want to talk about that because it's a very particular play on words that I noticed with your mentorship program with her business partner, Philip Robinson. Her career highlights are Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson Story. Malone wrote and executive produced this biopic about the legendary gospel singer. The film, which stars Grammy winner Lettucey, Love Her, received critical acclaim, earning multiple NAACP Image Award nominations and numerous other accolades. Theater productions, advocacy and mentorship, and the list goes on and on. So that is just a little bit about this amazing guest that we have here today. So, Ms. Malone, welcome to A Conversation With.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here. I truly appreciate the invitation.
Yes, yes, yes. And just wanted to introduce everyone. If you haven't met already, my absolutely amazing co-host, Okima Timor. So we are going to get right into the questions because I have a lot of them.
Okay, I'm excited.
Okay, well, the first thing that I always like to ask all of my guests is how did you get your start in the industry?
I got my start in the industry really early. I went to Youth Performing Arts High School in Louisville, Kentucky, and I started off as an actress in the theater department, and then began playwriting my senior year. Amazing teacher who taught me the art of playwriting. And from that art in college, I started writing plays and charging $3 a ticket for those plays. And I'd have 800 people at the plays, Kappa Alpha Psi and Zetas and AKAs, Deltas, and really understood the power of words and the power of my own voice, and then continued touring around the country. Started off in Louisville. I would have 2,000 people come to theaters when I was 20 and 21, and just really understood promotion and pushing myself and getting radio stations involved, and started touring around the country. I was really good at getting the community involved in all of these cities I went to. And then from there, wrote a sitcom pilot called Word of the State, starring Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, actress Janet Huber, who's also like a sister to me, and my business partner, Philip Robinson, co-produced. And then later on wrote Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson Story, and about the legendary Queen of Gospel, Mahalia Jackson, directed by sensational and amazing legend Denise Dowse. And just started really honing my craft from there. And I'm writing another biopic now, so I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, this is a long career here.
Okay, so I'm going to follow up with that question because you started doing plays in college for a very specific reason.
Yes, I
Can
did.
can you talk about that?
Yeah, I started doing plays in college because I had a full scholarship at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, and it was paying for my books, it paid for my tuition, my housing, and I don't know. For some reason, I was 17 years old, and I didn't understand what an amazing gift that was. And I was like, I told my mom, I didn't like that they were doing Shakespeare. I don't want to go to this university anymore. I'm going to this other university. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. My mom was like, so you're going to lose your scholarship. I'm like, yeah, but that's okay because I'm just going to go. And she's like, so you're going to pay for school. I'm like, oh, really? For me, it was just a continuation of high school. I didn't understand that like I was being financed to go to this university. So I didn't want to go home. So I went to Western Kentucky and I went to the Student Activity Center president and I said, hi, I have this great idea. Can I put these plays on and you keep the money and you put it towards my tuition, but I can put these plays on and I'm going to charge the money. And I think he was just like, this girl is so brazen. I'm going to go with it. You know, and for me, I'm in Kentucky. Western Kentucky is an amazing president, but it's a mainly white university. But the Student Activity Center director was white, but he was just like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. And that's what I did. And I put those plays on every semester, and I'd have like 60 people in the cast. And I was like, okay, everybody, we're going to have rehearsal today, and I'm going to need everybody to be on time. It's important. And they were like, and now I'm talking to students from then. They were like, I can't believe I was listening to a 17-year-old when I had classes to do. And I was like, I got to get to rehearsal.
Wow.
So I was doing that, not understanding how big that was.
Wow.
So given that, and like, first of all, congratulations on just being open to go for it, right? We always talk about in our business how you can't wait, right?
Yeah.
Like the business of show is hurry up and wait, but those who wait lose.
That's right.
And so congrats on like at a very early age being like, wait for who? Wait for what?
Yeah. I was like survival. We gotta go.
Tell me how you've utilized that same energy and prowess from that time to now your adult life and still instilling in yourself the I'm not waiting ethos.
You know, thank you so much. That's an excellent question. Now that I look on my life, the building blocks were being really young, listening to Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, reading those books, reading Dr. Maya Angelou, understanding slavery, and that I'm riding on the backs of people who came before me. And I had that very young. I knew that like 15, 13. So I'm carrying that we got to hustle. We got to get this done. People have were sacrificed for me. And so I was carrying that. And so, you know, I didn't realize that I had that drive, but I call it my ancestors. Bless you, my ancestors that motivated me to be here. And that I took that determination, you know, and Dr. Maya Angelou's words, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave, right? So what were the dreams? What were their dreams? And so what were those gifts? And so I carry that with me.
Wow, that's amazing. So, excuse me. So I want to talk, because I did some research on you, and you talk about being a disruptor. And the definition of a disruptor is a person or a thing that interrupts an event, activity, or progress by causing a disturbance. And again, you've talked about being a disruptor in the industry. In what way does Ericka Malone Entertainment disrupt the norms?
I think because Hollywood will make you feel that, you know, I tell people a lot, it's, and this is in every background, racial, economic background, but it's very similar to high school, right? Because you want to be at the popular table, right? At least that was my dream. Mm-hmm. If I could just get to the popular table, life will be okay for me, right? Yes. And I remember trying to sit at the popular table, and there was a little boy I really liked. I think I was like 10. And then I fell, and spaghetti was all in my hair. And it was embarrassing. And of course, the popular table shunned me, and I never got to sit at the popular table. So I remember literally picking myself up, taking my tray, and just going to sit at a table by myself. And just that day, honestly, was transformative. I wasn't trying to sit at the popular table anymore. So here, years later, decades later, I'm still not trying to sit at the popular table. I've created my own table. As Shirley Chisholm has once said, our amazing Shirley Chisholm said, so she said, bring a folding chair. But I've actually just believed in Ericka Nicole Malone Entertainment. Going into Hollywood, being a disruptor is, I'm not trying to be accepted. I'm not trying to be included. I like seeing things like what we did with Sundance for a very long time and creating an event at Sundance. It was like, at the time, there was only one or two Black oriented events there, and they're amazing events. But I was like, why should there be just a selection of one or two things? Why can't we have 3 or 4 things or 5 things or diverse things about? And so it was like, I'm just going to go do it. And I'm not going to ask permission. Hi, it's okay. And I've just done that my whole life. I just show up, and this Dr. King said, take a step and the staircase will appear. That's what I do as a disruptor in Hollywood. I just, okay, so I'm going to shop my script around. Okay. So I'll just, me and my business partner just financed it and produced it ourselves. And you have to believe that what you have to, and I think that's the question, right? Do we believe that what our grandmothers and our aunties and our uncles sat and told us is meant for us to do big things with? Or do we just believe that you have to be popular and famous and rich, and that's the only way you make it? And so that's disruptor.
Wow.
I love that. I mean, the Sundance event that you do is so important because I feel like it's people like you and Diversity in Cannes, all of these events that are not immediately ingratiated to the Sundance, space, but are the things that people that look like me that come to Sundance are looking forward to, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, there's the M88 party. Yes, there's Black House, there's Gold House, all that. Great. Yeah. But they are all still under the Sundance umbrella. You guys are like, I'm gonna bring you something during the time, but not the thing, but at the thing, and not with the thing before the thing, and come do the thing.
Yeah.
And so
I'm just gonna come do it. And I mean, and we move around. We're doing something else next year, somewhere else. But it's just, for me, it's just, how can I guess for me and my perspective and the way I see people of color, of all racial backgrounds, but specifically Black Americans, as kings and queens, as beautiful, as strong, as successful. I wasn't raised up around a lot of stereotypes that are being pushed or have been pushed over the decades. So I want to show a contrast, that there's class and elegance, and I want to show that. And that's how I'm a disruptor. I want to break your perception of what Black is. Black is the same thing as what anything else is. We have the same heights that can be reached as anyone else. And I want to show that in my work and my writing and anything I do.
Yeah. Well, you said something very interesting. You said you're not famous, but you're notable for doing some things, and that you consider that to be your superpower.
Yes.
Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm ever famous, I'm going to be like, well, I don't want to be famous. My superpower is I'm not trying to be famous. Mm-hmm. I want people to feel famous. I want the maid to feel like the queen. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to be famous. My superpower is I'm just a normal person just like you, who believes that we can do extraordinary things. And my job as a person, especially with the bucket wish and some of the things I'm doing now, is to whisper in people's ear, you are a queen. You are a king. You are the dream and the hope of the slave. You're the dream. And so I want to whisper that to people. And so, yes, I'm not famous, and I don't want to be famous. If I'm ever famous, I think I'll be like disappointed. That's my whole thing, is I'm not famous. So I just want people to feel empowered. Mm-hmm. And to feel like they can do anything. And that's famous to me.
Wow, that's amazing.
So let me ask you this. For those coming behind you, what is your best piece of advice for the creatives coming up in this world? Because when you started and really began to build your world and your work, this wasn't the world.
No.
So what is your understanding business the way that you do, having made the strides and steps that you have, having laid a lot of groundwork for those of us coming behind you? What is your biggest piece of emotional and then your biggest piece of business advice for the creatives that are coming up today?
These are two excellent questions. Thank you. For the emotional, I would say just be constant. The biggest thing is don't let your emotions go up and down. And you do, especially right now with what's going on in the world and politics in the world, it's enough to make you depressed, but try to keep your mentality constant. Just be right there in the middle. It's too hard if you go all the way down to get back up. If you go deep into depression, it can take 2 or 3 weeks to get back up. So keep yourself right in the, sometimes you can't be high, right? Sometimes you can just be right above water, just be right there. Because your best decisions are going to come from that. It's really hard to make good business decisions if you're like, and things are going to happen and it's going to be rough. I'm not going to say it's not rough, but you got to keep your head above water. So that's my best piece of part one of my emotional advice. And part two is to trust yourself, to trust if there's a seed that you feel like God put in your spirit and you felt like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. I don't have the money. Trust that it's going to get done. Right. And then to kind of bridge that to business, one thing, you are right, it's a different time, but there's some things that are transformative over decades. And that is believing in yourself. And that is, I had no money. Let's just start, I was doing plays with no money, none. I was broke and I had no money and I was young, but I believed it could happen. So I'm calling radio stations and I'm just calling them. And the biggest thing I learned from that is people don't get calls, right? Because people don't try to do things like, you know what I mean? So I'm calling radio. They're like, this is the first time anybody ever called me to say, would I put $25,000 in a play or to put 25? And I didn't want the money. I just wanted the advertising. And I was like, look, if you put your advertising with my play, I'll split 50% of any of the money that comes in. I need you to do the ad. You're not spending any money. You own the radio station. I just want you to put my and I'm like 20, 19, pushing this to radio stations. And they were like, you have a lot of guts. And they said, yes, you can take a salon. They were giving me $500 for ads. So if I needed $50,000, I knew I needed 50 ads, full page ads. So I'd have a big old program book, 50 ads in the book, and I'd do the play with no money. So I guess what I would just tell people is to think about what it is you want to do, write down your business plan, and believe that it'll show up. Take the step, and staircase appears. It really, really does. Figure out what you want to do. Make sure the plan is solid. Make sure my plays were amazing. And I'm not saying that just because I wrote them, but I understood that I had to have a good product. And because of college, I knew how to get a cast together to follow me. And so that's something that you take throughout the decades.
Wow. So you are an NAACP award winner for Breakthrough Creative and a Motion Picture with Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson Story. So how did the story come about, and why did you decide to make this film?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure I also credit Ledisi starred as Mahalia Jackson and Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson Story. Just incredible actress. But I had a really good friend producer, with Sean Freer. He was like, hey, you ever thought about writing a Mahalia Jackson Story? And I said, no, I love her. I hadn't thought about it. And I wrote it. And, we shopped around Hollywood. And at the time, there were like a few different Mahalia Jacksons after we started shopping ours. And, it was like, at the time, it was like, nobody's talked about Mahalia Jackson. All of a sudden, everybody was talking about Mahalia Jackson. So me and my partner, we just made a determination that we were just going to finance it and pay for it ourselves. And that's what we did. And it started off as a feature. Then I was going to make a short. And then we went back to a feature. And it was during COVID. And we got shut down 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Because back then during COVID, you had to be masked up. Everything was 30% above, what it would take to shoot it. We had some amazing producer and sound also. And, Denise Dowse I mentioned already as director, but it was something we all came together to get done. Beautiful music by Paul Wright III, who's a Grammy Emmy Award winner. We just had an amazing cast, crew, producers, and we're able to get that done.
Wow, that's amazing. But you know what? I really want to talk to you about the importance of quality in planning and allocating funds. Because I read an article and you talked about when you were 19 and you were doing plays. And you did the play in a theater where the sound system wasn't that great. And if you've ever listened to this podcast, one of the things that we always talk about is having phenomenal sound. And that's one of our cornerstones. That is our thing. But you talked about a situation where the sound quality wasn't great, and you had a couple of amazing women pull you to the side and give you some constructive criticism, and that kind of set the tone for how you do things now and back then going forward. So can you talk to the audience about, first of all, the importance of budgeting correctly, and secondly, the importance of making sure that what you put out there is phenomenal and superior quality, because it matters?
That's excellent. These are excellent questions. You made me think of a couple of other things, but that particular day, when you're doing things and you're 20 or 19, 20, 21, and you're putting on productions, people are giving money. Funeral home directors were giving me money. And I'll go into that just real quickly. I needed $500 from a funeral director. And he said, just go on to the office and I'll meet you there. And then I'm sitting in the office and I look across the room and they're putting makeup on a body. And I just remember just sitting there, just frozen. And he comes in, shuts the door. He's like, so what do you want me to do with this play? And I was like, can I have $500 to put on this? So he gave me $500, and so I had to be really, I had to do a lot of things I didn't want to do, but the community would come to the plays. These are people hard-earned money, and they're coming to your plays, and they're taking their paycheck and giving you $25 or $30 to your play. So after the play, I'd always have people walk up to me and tell me what they like and they didn't like. So I had a mother, I was in the hallway and she said, baby, I love the play, but I could not hear. It was squeaking, all that noise. It's distracting. You got to get that fixed. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I was okay. Well, you need to work on it. Then I went to the bathroom. And it was like 7 women huddled up with their purses. All we want to tell you is a good play, but you got to get that sound right. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. So when you have people in your audience who are your supporters, who are rallying for you, they help you to understand what you need to do better. So in terms of allocation, and I want to stress this in business, when you are making money, you can't spend that money on you. Hardly at all. Not at first. You have to make sure your product is solid. So I had to upgrade my sound system. Because they were like, don't have me come in anymore, and that sounds like that. And it's embarrassing. And so, and your mama's like, that embarrassed me that I came and tell people to come and you had to sound like so you but it's learned, but that experience, as much as it may have been embarrassing, was both a blessing and a learning curve, right? That's right.
A learning curve because you ain't had that problem ever again.
I never had that problem.
Also a blessing because better it be at 19, 20 on your stage play at school or in these smaller locations than at 30 on a massive stage off Broadway or off Broadway or on Broadway. You know what I mean? Or pitching it to go elsewhere.
Yes.
It's like I love that you tell that story and don't nobody make you acknowledge your shortcomings like an older Black woman. Especially if she holding her purse like this.
She holding her purse. It was right here.
Right here in the nose. she doing that because she gonna tell you, and she gonna hold her hand out like this, baby.
Yeah.
No, nobody make you feel like you got to do better.
You got to do better.
An old black woman.
And an old black woman. And you have to understand, I started
off. And it's all in love.
All in love. They love you. Because
at the moment, it don't feel very lovely.
No. And I started off in plays in church. So I started off like being 14, 15, 16. They put on a whole play at the church. So I'm putting on a play, again, not understanding that watch night service. I'm putting on a play. I got my headset on and I'm like 16, 17 years old, putting on a play, talking to people. Okay, I'm gonna need you to turn the curtain. Okay. And I'm like taking it so serious. But then, I had the other people come up to me. Now I like the play you wrote, but don't add nothing to the Bible and don't take it. I was like, yes, ma'am. So you have like all these things were like building blocks for me to today, to excellence at all times.
Yeah. And you know what? You said something very interesting that really jumped out. You said to make sure that your product, and we, again, on this podcast, we talk about your film or your stage play. It's a product that you want the consumer to consume. So you need to really look at it from a standpoint of business, because you are asking, as you said, you're asking people to spend their hard-earned money on a product that you are producing, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be honest, that's what happened a lot to the stage plays. Remember the stage plays used to come to every city around the country. Yeah. Remember? Yes. And that's the thing in the past. Partly what happened was a lot of companies like Live Nation, different people started owning the theater. So part of the money was going to, and it wasn't able to make money. But then some of the plays weren't at the best quality, So yeah, you always have to create products that are excellence at all times, no matter what you're doing. If it's a TV show, and there's so many, I want to say this to the filmmakers out there, because now you can make a film on your phone, right? So, but it has to be in excellence. Your lines have to be in excellence. Don't rush through your project. Take your time, so it's something that is a legacy for years to come.
Wow.
For sure. I think that, the idea of excellence sometimes also gets misconstrued, because we conflate perfection for excellence. Ooh. And they're not the same, right? Yeah. We strive to be perfect in the aspiration of excellence, and don't realize that excellent doesn't mean perfect. Mm-hmm. It just means well done. Well done. There can be flubs, there can be but did you do your best? Did you make sure that the sound was good, even if maybe all the lines weren't great? Did you make sure that the performances were decent, even if they weren't big names? Did you make all of those things? And I love that you continue to put this emphasis on our need to be excellent. I just want to make sure that our viewers also love, understand, and respect the fact that excellence and perfection are not synonyms.
No, they're not.
They're not sisters, they're cousins.
They're cousins.
And they're distant cousins, because perfect really only exists in the dictionary. If you were striving for perfect, you wouldn't be where you are today. You know what I mean? You put that play out there. It wasn't perfect. The play was great, but the sound wasn't perfect. Them ladies got you together. You fixed
that. They got me together, though. They got you right.
But you fixed that sound. And so, as you went in, even looking at something like the Mahalia Jackson Story, her life was so expansive. You couldn't show every moment of her life. It's only a 90-minute movie.
No.
So,
you're right.
You know what I mean? You chose the pieces that you felt highlighted who she was the best. Somebody's not going to be pleased. Somebody's going to be ecstatic. We can't please everybody, but I just want to remind our viewers, because we get people like you coming in and giving them so much good information and so many good feels. And sometimes we just get a little in our own way. So guys, when she's telling you to strive for excellence, excellence can be achieved. Perfection is not real.
It's not real.
Sure that you're going for being great and understand that that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Bucket Wish, thank you for those nuggets of wisdom. Even with the Bucket Wish documentary I did, again, I'm not famous, right? So, me doing that, showing me making mistakes, trying, I tried 10 things that I've never done or things I've done and failed at. And I was not perfect, but there's something beautiful about trying anyway. And that's what the Bucket Wish documentary, which is now a platform, is about finding the wishes for your life and making those wishes come true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's so interesting, because I saw the trailer for that, and one of the things on your bucket wish is also on mine because I never learned how to swim. And I was in middle school, very scared of water, always scared of the water. And that's one of my goals is
Oh, we
is
got to get you signed up with Black People Will Swim.
yeah,
No, there's a really beautiful company started by a very young woman who, just like you, Ericka, was like, I'm not waiting. And now when I tell you, she has every grant, and teaches throughout New York for elders, babies, and everybody in between. It's called Black People Will Swim. We got to get you in some classes, Floyd.
Okay, it's all. I'm willing and able to do that. But Ericka, let's talk about your production company, because one of the amazing things about Ericka Nicole Malone Entertainment, or ENME, is your goal and aspirations to really uplift Black women in this business. And one of the things that I've read about your company that I really love is that your production company employs 85% women of color. So I just wanted to ask, why do you think that it's important to have such a diverse and inclusive presence on your film and your stage sets? Why is that?
I think it's so important, primarily because a lot of times as Black women, I call it the invisibility factor, that sometimes they don't even see us. And we're standing there. And I test this a lot. I'll go to a store and people will just kind of move around you, not acknowledge you, not acknowledge that you're there. And until you say something, excuse me, hi, excuse me. And you have to make yourself known that, oh, hi, And so for me, it's important for Black women or people of color to feel empowered, especially women, Black women, to feel empowered. And so we make sure that whenever we're doing the production, that I'm seeing all the incredible women of color that I see every day that are out doing things who may get overlooked in other productions. So that's why DEI is so important, because there is that factor of people will get looked over and circumvented because of who they are. And so whenever we do a film, you see some powerful women and people of color, and also we have Latinas and all kinds of different people, but you see people of color who are leading the day. So it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's amazing because one of the organizations that I actually mentor for, Women of Color Unite, by Cheryl O'Bedford, that's one of her things. She created this thing called the JTC list because, much like yourself, one of the things she kept hearing from the powers that be in the places of power was, oh, we can't find them. We can't find any women of color cinematographers or editors or showrunners or line producers. So she said, oh, really? Then I'll make a list and you have no choice but to see them.
I love that.
Right.
I love that. Yeah. Because again, the invisibility factor.
Yeah. And it's interesting about you talking about, walking into the store and them not seeing you. Well, you heard the little bell go off when the door opened.
Yeah.
But
well, my favorite is I saw you walk right past me, and then I finally say hello, and you're like, "Oh, hi! I didn't surprise you. You saw me.
You saw me."
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've had to, when I'm next in line, and they haven't said anything to me, but then someone else of a different color comes in, and they're like, "I'll be right with you," and I'm like, "No, I'm actually here." Oh, I'm so sorry. That's why I call it the invisibility factor.
Yeah,
I don't let that happen anymore. I make sure that you helped me. I'm next. I'm going to get helped. Right. So yeah, that's why it's so important. I want everyone to feel valued and empowered, which is why we have the Power in Me grant for women of color.
Yeah. Can you
talk about that?
Yeah. I was about to ask you about that.
As someone who encourages my clients, myself, my colleagues and friends to always apply for all the things. Please talk to us about your grant and your programs.
I would be doing it again. I probably will do it biannually, but I'll be doing it in 2026. But the Power in Me grant, ENME, is I want women of color to feel that their talents are recognized and be limitless. And I want them to feel like they have a space where they're seen and celebrated. And that's what the Power of Me grant is all about. We want to find the next Oscar winner, the next Golden Globe winner, who people may not see because maybe they're not part of the popular, again, that popular crowd, or they're not connected to an A-list person or a B-list person. You're just a regular person. Ericka Nicole Malone Entertainment is about finding people on the outskirts, the people that can't get in and don't see their way in. How can they break through? And we're saying, here's a pathway for you to get through.
Wow.
I love it. I love it. And talk to me about some of the, if you can, or if you can recall, talk to me about some of the special finds that you've had. I think we talk to people about the things that they offer, but we don't always give them an opportunity to like big up the people that they've offered it to. Like, talk to me about some of these special, recipients that have gotten your grant and like gone on to do really great things with them.
There's so many. I know Rhyme Guys, or Rhyme Goose. She has an amazing film called Carte, and I think it went on to win a lot of awards. I don't want to name too many because I'd have to name them all.
Right. No, just one or two. Like, I think that a lot of times we feel more achievable to something if we hear a name, right?
Yeah, Dion Nguyen, I want to also keep that name on your board here. She is an amazing, she started off as an award-winning makeup artist, but now she's a phenomenal writer, creator. And as she said, 50 years old, being able to be out there now, getting her work out. I have an amazing writer. Her name is Janae Gamble. I helped finance hers, and she's not even part of the Power in Me grant. She's just sometimes I've helped some people who are not part of the grant, just people that I wanted to help. And they're not all women. I've helped several Black men with their projects. And Carl Gilliard.
Carl.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah, he started off with his pilot, 2 Degrees. And I think it's now called Black Famous, but I helped finance his project getting out there. So there's so many people I've helped just because I believe that we don't help. The thing is, a lot of other communities will help each other. They'll put money behind each other's projects. We as Black Americans have to do better at, hey, I see that you're trying to do something. I heard about it here. Here's $1,000. Here's $5,000. I'm not saying it's a lot of money. In my case, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it was 5. Sometimes I just was like, let me see how much I can help people get their projects out.
But anything you didn't have is more than you had. So, we also can't get too stuck on numbers if somebody's trying to help you, because it all does add up. Look at what Woody McLean is doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you've seen, but he is doing his own. So he is doing a community funded rom-com. He did
smart.
He started he looked for his writer, found her on Threads. He was trying to look for a director. He talked to a bunch of us about potentially directing, but wound up going with Little Rel, which makes sense. But he's doing a crowdfund. He got the first 50K in 3 days.
That's my point of just asking the question. If you recall.
And of course, there was some pushback, and I love that he addressed it. Somebody was like, well, you are on BMF, you're famous. I know you make money. You asking us for money. And he's like, it's not just about you giving me money. It's about the fact that in business, very rarely do you use your own, so that if what goes wrong happens, you got something to supplement.
That's right.
Two, he's like, it's about the community building the thing so they care about it when it comes out. Y'all always asking for stuff, but then when it comes out, don't nobody want to come see it. Well, if you put your money in, you going to come see it, right?
That's right.
So I just love the way that he did it. And I say that to say, like, we have to continue to commence ourselves to now really insulating in community, because NEH is gone. there's so many big federal funds that we were getting in these different nonprofits and grants and whatever that are gone. And if we don't look to Ericka Nicole Malone Entertainment, or to Floyd, like he has his film festival that just happened. He has another one coming. I'm on the board of several different organizations, from New York Women in Film and Television and on. If we don't look to ourselves to insulate and really support ourselves, we might find ourselves X'd out of this business because it wasn't meant for us to really excel in the first place.
Oh, so true. So true. And I want to also give a shout out to Janae Gamble, who was one of the recipients. She has a film called The Amazing J. Nicole on Amazon. So, and I finance that. So, you're right. You have to make a collective beat. I just want to stress, you don't have to be famous, because none of these people are famous, and we're all just like doing our thing. But I mean, remember, I'm getting $500, $250. Grandma's sliding me $100. I have to pay it forward. So for me, I know, okay, now you have to give back what was given to you. So that's what I'm doing, because so many grandmamas would say, I'm giving you half my paycheck because I believe in you. And I want you to know, if you keep on keeping on, so I'm doing what they did to me.
Yeah. And you know what? I got to back up, Okima, because you said something that bothered me a little bit regarding the young brother that crowdfunded.
Woody.
And one of the things, yes, Woody. And one of the things that's interesting about our folk, and I'm going to go here, we complain about what we don't see. And we complain about not seeing us in it. But then someone comes along and says, I'm creating a thing for us, by us, but I need your help doing it.
Wow. And
then people are saying, well, why are you asking us for money? Now let's back that up. You can't have both things. You can't have the complaint about not seeing us.
Wow.
And then when I'm saying I'm going to do something so you can see us, and then you're complaining about me asking you to help me.
Baby, he laid that lady out. It was the nicest. It was the nicest layout I've seen in a while. But he laid that lady out.
Right. And here's the thing: if contributing to something is not your thing, as they say, if you can't say something nice, then don't say anything at all.
But that's the thing. Like, you could also just keep scrolling.
There you go.
Keep scrolling.
You could also just keep scrolling. But you want to go viral for having the conversation that's going to titillate, but it also doesn't help us at all as a community or a creative space. Because, like, also, what are you doing?
Say it.
What are you doing? Like, you got all these commentaries and comments and questions and critiques. What are you doing? How are you helping the environment and the community?
Say it.
Are you empowering?
Right. Or you just here
mentoring?
Or you just here to complain. If we just wanted to hear somebody whine and complain, we could turn on CNN and listen to the orange dude.
That's right.
If we want just to hear, somebody just blowing air, that's him all day.
Right.
He finished talking about the Pacific Ocean like it was a bathtub.
The truth is, if you had 100 people like Woody, right, who are or 100,000, because we do have people who are as talented as he is, people of color, what would that look like if we had 100,000 raising money to get their projects done? So what we need to be doing is supporting, obviously, him, but also replicating that, which is basically a microcosm of what I did, right? Because I did it back in the day. We all have to create things and really raise it from our communities to put the work out there.
Yeah. And something that you and your business partner did that really stuck out to me when I was reading about you was the fact that you said you were not going to wait for someone to do it for you. So you did it yourself. And sometimes doing it yourself, you need help.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And shout out to the people that do show up and do it for themselves, but also shout out to the people that maybe aren't the I'm going to do it myself person, but that's going to watch you do it and be like, here, let me help you. I don't have the inspiration or the impetus to go do that right now or the ability, but here, let me give you this and support you or watch you or, what, because that's the other thing I want us to, if we only have the Ericka Nicole Malones, who's going to help her?
That's right.
So everybody don't have to be a chief. It's okay to be part of the village and not be the person leading the village, because somebody's got to support the leader.
Say it now. And the thing is, remember, the Student Activity Center director could have said no. He said yes. So I needed his help to get from point A to point B. You know, I needed those radio stations to come in and say, I got your back, keep going. Beauty shop owners, funeral home directors, like we all, it's a collective beat to get.
It's you sitting there with the person doing the body for me.
I'm telling you, I was like, I thought this was my last day living. I really did. I was like, God.
But that's a movie.
Baby, listen.
That's a movie.
Or at the very least, a skit.
It's definitely, I definitely plan to use that because I remember the feeling. But you had to do a lot to get.
You got to do what you got. Listen,
I
remember I'm from the Caribbean, and I remember when we were laying my aunt to rest in Tortola. If you're familiar with the West Indies, Tortola is to St. Thomas, what Tobago is to Trinidad.
Okay.
And there's one little ferry at that time. You're talking about late 80s, early 90s. One little ferry that goes from the big island of St. Thomas to Tortola at the time. So, baby, we was putting grandma to rest, but she was on the ferry with us. Like,
oh, wow.
The body was with us on the ferry. I just tried not to sit like right near it, but she was on the ferry, so was we. We was all on the ferry to go lay her to rest.
That's it.
So I get it.
It was, you know, and then, you know, when somebody works at a funeral home, they have that funeral home voice, you know? So it's very scary. It's
right. It's half Morticia. It's half the Addams family.
Half the Addams family.
Half the Addams family, half a pastor.
Yeah.
It's what you gonna do with that $500?
One check. So you know,
but you got the money though.
if you clear, mission accomplished.
They was making up the gas so they can help the living child. Look how it worked.
Yeah.
Look how it worked.
It did. It was crazy that did that, but
won't he do it?
All those things they helped me to be where I am today.
Yeah, and that's amazing. But you talk about something that your mom said that was an amazing and a very powerful quote. You said that your mom said, "Don't think like a man, think better."
Yeah.
And that really jumped out because I'm sitting here, ladies and gentlemen, talking to a dynamic woman with a very dynamic woman as my co-host. So to the both of you ladies, that quote, "Don't think like a man, think better." What does that mean to you, Ericka, as a woman who has been, and as a Black woman who has been very successful in a white male dominated industry?
My mother was really good. That's an excellent question. My mother was very good at laying out history for me. And again, using history as a means of determination, motivation, inspiration. So she would say, you know, you can never be a man. And you can't beat a man at being a man because you'll never be a man, but you are a Black woman. We are the women who were slaves at one point, who did work in the fields, that would have a baby and hours later have to continue picking, had to put the baby on their back, had to nurse the baby, had to have the husband, you know, like, so we're carrying all of this responsibility all through these decades. We are strong being. And that's what she meant. And also she was understood as a Black woman, excellence. We can't just be on the same level as our counterparts or as people. We have to be a step better, a step faster, a step stronger. We have to hear comments being made to us, not react out of emotion, not be angry. You know, there's an intellectual precision that my mother was really good at, and also being an excellent speaker. I was on the speech and debate team, and she was really about that. Were you too? So you understand? That's like all that. I love that. So I'm traveling or in college, going on speech and debate team. You know, in my case, it was poetry and performing poetry. But so that's what she meant, being a step stronger, being a step faster. And, you know, don't think like a man, be stronger, be better. And that's how I operate now. I always want to be in excellence in everything I do or not do it at all.
I love something you just said, and I'm writing it down. Intellectual precision.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I've never heard that expression before, but once I sit down and figure out how to use it, I'm gonna be using it in sentences so I can sound smart.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think that was an excellent answer.
Thank you.
And your mom is so smart. I think for me, I don't need to be better than a man. I just need to be better than the woman I was yesterday. Like, I don't, because we're just in this place now, and I totally understand where people are coming from, especially elders, because like,
Yes.
your mama came up at a time where until 1974 she couldn't even have her own bank account if she didn't have a husband.
Yeah.
Like it was just a different. And let's remember that was 50, 60 years ago. It's not like that was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
That was less than most lifetimes ago.
Yeah.
But I think for me, we're in such a place of this war of the sexes that they continue to build up in this division between Black men and Black women, especially, that we feed into a lot. So I think at this point, it's not about me needing to be better than my male counterpart. It's about me being better than who I was as the woman I am yesterday, so that I can meet him where he is or help bring him further. Right. And so, in this business, it is still very much a patriarchal business. It is still very much a white, cis, heteronormative, patriarchal space. Mm-hmm. So, as Black women and as Black people, we are the underdogs in their minds in the first place. So if we put it to a place, if I have a Black man that is my direct report, then at the end of the day, I'm hoping that he wants me to be where he is or further. If I am the person that is the subordinate, or if I have a Black man that is a subordinate to me, it's not my job to do anything but make him set up to win for his time when he is the direct authority in the room. And so I think that, if we take the lessons from our elders and then plant them in the today world that we have, and take the intention, but maybe make those tweaks for the world of today, not of yesterday, we can still excel the way they want us to excel, be the excellence they expect us to be, and allow ourselves the grace to bring our counterparts with us, those that deserve and act right with us on both sides, right? Because ladies be out here wilding too, but so that we can all progress. Because it's like, when Floyd brought me into this show to be his co-host, he had already been doing this show successfully by himself for 3 years. He didn't need to bring me to the table, but he chose to. Right. And so when we have women like you, beautiful Black women that are successful and that are lifting while they climb, and that are infusing, everything that they need to into the community, so that we can continue to be who we are and be seen as we are. I did grow up with a lot of the stereotypes that are out there, but I knew that they weren't the only women. And I knew the way to honor those stereotypes was to not make them caricatures, to make them as flawed as they are, but to ensure that the people that help them in reality in our communities are also seen on the screen. So it's like, it's our job to bring all the pieces of the puzzle to the table, not just the ones that diminish us in a global view.
And I want to just add, if I can add a layer to what you're saying, please. Because my mom, first of all, older people speak in a lot of hyperbole.
Yes,
so, right? So
they got a riddle for stuff. They got a haiku for everything.
Right. So it's not like either or, right? It's just apply it where you want to, right? So when my mom spoke of that, she's not talking about a Black man. Mm-hmm. She's talking about any man. Right. So my mom was very not limiting. She wanted me to be better. So I think what I've learned from Sundance and talking to some extraordinary women, award-winning women who have won Golden Globes and all that, is that different generations have different perspectives, and they're all right. They're all right. What you just said was absolutely right. But for me, I think I am still operating on the climbing, that it's like, I think it's whatever inspires you and motivates you. And for me, yes, better than I was yesterday. But I do want to, in a sense, it's not a competition against men, but it is me feeling like I don't want to be limited because I'm a woman, if that makes sense.
Yes, I can respect that. Yeah.
Obviously, working with our Black men, working with our white men and whatever, but I want to see how far can I go? how far can I possibly climb? What's up there? And I don't want to be told I can't. And I'm still climbing. Not to play our words in my song from the Bucket List, by the way.
Yes, but it's so true. You know, it's you're looking for that optimal thing as opposed to that peak, because when you get to the peak, that's it. But when you're looking to be optimal, you're always improving, and you're always learning, which is absolutely amazing. But we just have a few more questions for you.
Absolutely.
This has been absolutely amazing. But you spoke about your mom. You also talked a lot about your grandmother. But I want you to talk about the importance of mentors that have directly interacted with you, and silent mentors, because you talk about a lot of the amazing authors that you've read that have helped you on your journey. And I am a big proponent of silent mentors. I tell people all the time, yo, you ain't got to know them, but if they can help you, they're a mentor. I got a bookshelf full of mentors back here, because
Love it.
you know, they've all done something and shaped me in some way, shape, or form. So can you talk about the mentors that have been present in your life, that have had a direct impact in the physical, and the silent mentors where you've picked up a Maya Angelou or Toni Morrison's book, and you've read something and you say, hey, you know what? I can incorporate that in my life right now. So can you speak about that?
Oh, absolutely. My mom was, you know, the thing about me, if you cut me open, I'm about 85 to 95 years old. So I'm like I'm like an old person on the inside, because I used to hang out with my grandmother. But I'll start with my mom. My mom was just about inspiration, and she used to give me books like How to Win Friends and Influence People when I was like 12. You know, read this book, 10, 12 years old, and this is going to help you with communication. I don't know, but just, you know, this is going to help you. And she didn't have high education, but she was making sure I was surrounded by knowledge. Okay, PBS, sit in front of and watch Les Brown. Les Brown gonna be on PBS. Watch him. He says a lot of positive things.
Oh, come on, Les Brown.
Right?
You know, our parents, you know, you couldn't tell them nothing about Les Brown.
Les Brown. Don't make me throw something. But Les Brown at 13, sitting there, Black man, wonderful, strong voice, full of white people in a stadium. It was like 10,000 people, and his voice was just cascading across the room, and he was just giving you chills. And he was like, it's possible. It's possible. And so that was a silent mentor, but partly the bridge from my mentor from my mother telling me to listen to him. And I listened to every Les Brown speech, and there were many. And so my mother would always surround me with people, African music, and people. She was like, my daughter's talented. She writes poetry, you know, help her. And so they would just pour into me. People was playing African music in Louisville, Kentucky, and they'd just be hitting the drum, and they'd say something, say some words. And I'd just say a few words. And so the community, you know, pouring into my gifts. A wonderful teacher, Pat Allison, at 13, 14, 15, 16, who taught me the art of playwriting and said, there's something special about you. I want to help you. My grandmother, who didn't have a whole lot to say, her silence and her wisdom and just her moans would speak to me. And I'd ask her, what's that moan? Just the world, honey, blah, blah, blah. And just giving me, you know, and you learn what the moans meant. Like there's a meaning behind the moans. And a lot of that you'll see in Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson Story. You'll feel my grandmother's, the moans and And, you know, Mahalia had a lot of that, just listening to her speeches and everything. And I incorporated the two. And then my dad, who was so prevalent in my life and taught me the art of tinkering and the art of, you know, a woman can do, you know, fix things on her own. She doesn't always have to go to a man to fix things. Like, you just try to fix it. Let me show you how to tinker. You got to tinker with it. You know, pull it apart, put it back together. And, you know, and so I, you know, a lot of things now that are broken, I'll fix it myself because I'm like, I got to tinker with it. I got to figure it out. And one Christmas, I remember reading I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Dr. Maya Angelou, and I didn't even go anywhere that whole Christmas day. I was so enthralled by the words. And I felt like Black writers are trying to give you a map, and all writers, not just Black writers, but for me, it was a map. Where to go. Let me share some of my wisdom so you don't have to think it's hard. Let me show you some of my pains. And you can go that door. That's a door you can go through, but I've already been through it. And here's some words. Read these pages. It'll help you save you some time, you know? And so all of those writers and artists and, you know, sculptors, and they helped shape me. And they're all in me. They're all inside me. And I want to pass that down to the next generation. Read books. Read the stories. Listen to your grandmother. She's trying to tell you something. Take some time. Pull up a chair. It might take her some time. She's going to moan and she's going to shake her head, but there's a lesson in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lesson in it. And all those lessons, my grandmother's friends, when I was 10, hanging out with them, listening to them talking about men and breakups. And you know what happened to, you know, Roscoe, and I'm like, ooh, what happened to Roscoe? All that stuff. Roscoe. No, he left the church. All that stuff is in Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson Story. All those words about men and all of that. Everything God does not give you anything wasted. Nothing in your life is wasted. All the pain, the challenges, the wins, the losses, He's going to use for something in the future.
Yeah. And really quickly, because I know you want to get something in here, Okima, but you talked about the moans.
No.
And
go
the
ahead.
thing that jumped out
wrap up soon,
was Delroy Lindo in Sinners in the car talking about his experience on the chain gang, and then he started moaning. And they talked about the fact that that was not in the script.
That was all improv.
It was improv. But interestingly enough, when I was sitting in the theater and he started moaning, if it hit me directly in my chest, it was resonating on a frequency, and him just starting to, and it was like, wow. And I put it on Threads and I said, did anyone notice about when Delroy Lindo started moaning? And I think I got about 50,000 hits on that one post and all the comments, and people was like, oh God, I thought it was just me. But when you talked about the moans, I guess it was a coping mechanism for people for different situations, because different moans, you know, meant different things. But I just wanted to share that. But Okima, to you.
No. I know we gotta wrap up soon. Yes. I guess my last question for you is, what's next, and where can we find you?
Yes.
Thank you. What's next? I'm writing a biopic right now. I can't talk about yet, but the Bucket Wish documentary is going to film festivals around the world, winning awards. And thank you. And I have a platform now called bucketwish.com. Follow me on bucketwish.com for the platform where I'm helping women around the world and men around the world chart new wishes, chart new paths for their lives. Find me at ericcanicolemalone.com. or on Instagram at Ericka Nicole Malone, at TikTok at Ericka Nicole Malone.
Amazing.
This,
Floyd. We could talk another hour. This was a blessing.
This is
what people said.
Well, you definitely have to come back, because I had another couple pages of questions.
Floyd, you always have 10 pages of questions.
But you know what? You have more than what you need. Better to
always
have it.
No, but listen, I'm not complaining about you showing up prepared, sir, because I've been in other situations.
No, I'm never. You know what, Ericka? It goes back to what you said about excellence and professionalism. I'm never going to have someone come on here and I don't do my due diligence, because that's disrespectful. That is extremely disrespectful. And to have anyone come on and, you know, I haven't learned about you and haven't researched you and done the things that, you know, I was supposed to do, so that we could not have an interview, but have a conversation.
That's it.
Because you have conversations with people you know.
Well, here's the thing. You can't call a podcast a conversation with and then not have a conversation.
There you go.
There's that part.
So true. That's right.
That's true. But this has been absolutely amazing. Before we go, Ericka Nicole Malone, any parting words for our audience?
Any questions?
No, any parting words? Any parting words for our audience?
Parting words. I'm sorry that if the screen froze for a second.
Okay,
just to believe in yourself. Don't give up on your dreams. And you're going to go into some of the most hardest times in your life, but trust that God's going to guide you through it. But trust yourself, and that still small voice has a purpose.
Absolutely amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you have gotten a masterclass for the low price of free. So what we always say on this podcast is listen to it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And I'm sincere when I say that, because trust me, you are going to hear and learn something different each and every time that you listen to it. I have learned so much today. So it's always a blessing to speak to people such as yourself, because I love bringing guests like you on, Ericka, because I learned so much, and it's something that I can then turn around and incorporate it into what I do. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. It took some time, but we got it done. We got it done. And again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining myself, the absolutely amazing and incomparable Ericka Nicole Malone.
Thank you so much.
My co-host, Okima T. Moore, on a conversation with. And as always, love it like a hobby, but treat it like a business.
Like a business.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Love
have
it.
an absolutely amazing day. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.